There's something about a river that makes you believe you're safe. You wade in on a July afternoon, the water brown and warm around your ankles, and you float and watch the sky, not once thinking about what might be passing under your feet. That's not carelessness. It's a treaty that says rivers belong to catfish and turtles, and nothing that swims in the ocean has any business here. But the bull shark is the one saltwater predator on this continent that can live in freshwater. Full stop. No asterisk. It's been pulled out of the Mississippi. It's been pulled out of the Potomac, a few miles from the capital. It's been documented nearly 2,500 miles up the Amazon, which tells you the range problem isn't a Louisiana problem or a Virginia problem. It's a river problem, anywhere the water connects to salt. So here's the question we're going to follow. How far inland can a saltwater predator actually travel? And what happens when it decides to stay? We're going to walk through the distances, the specific rivers, and the attacks that came after, because this animal isn't lost. It's exactly where it wants to be. But that model, the one that says a saltwater fish belongs in saltwater, is about to fall apart. Drop your river in the comments. I want to see how many of you live right on top of this. The animal that broke the model. Here's the denial, and it's not a stupid one. Standard shark biology says saltwater only. Sharks pull oxygen from water through their gills, sure, same as any fish. But the model in your head says their whole body chemistry is built around the ocean, and a fish built for salt shouldn't be able to survive somewhere that has none. That's true for almost every shark species on Earth. It is not true for this one. The trick is called osmoregulation. And once you understand it, the bull shark stops looking like an anomaly and starts looking like an engineering problem somebody already solved. Every fish has to balance the salt and water inside its cells against whatever's outside them. In the ocean, a shark's kidneys and a special organ called the rectal gland work to keep the extra salt from building up. In freshwater, that same equipment runs in reverse. The kidneys start recycling salt instead of dumping it, and the shark holds on to urea in its blood to keep its cells from swelling up and rupturing the way most saltwater fish would if you dropped them in a lake. Most sharks can't do any of this. A great white pulled into a lake would be dead within days, its cells swelling as fresh water floods in faster than its body can push back out. Same story for tiger sharks, hammerheads, nearly every species in the family. Their kidneys only run one direction. The bull sharks don't, and that single biological difference is the reason this animal turns up in places no other shark on Earth could survive. And once that shift happens, the shark isn't just passing through. It can stay in that river for months, sometimes years. The first hard proof of this showed up in 1937, when two bull sharks were caught in the Mississippi River near Alton, Illinois, nearly 1,000 miles inland from the Gulf of Mexico. The record shows people didn't believe it. A shark in Illinois, hundreds of miles from anything you'd call ocean, and the reaction wasn't alarm, it was disbelief. The assumption that somebody had mixed up the species or exaggerated the distance. Some people still assume that today, when this comes up. But the catch was documented, verified, and it sat in the record for decades as a strange footnote nobody quite knew what to do with. The Mississippi Highway. Number 4 on this list belongs to the Mississippi itself, which brings you to the water that made it happen. The Mississippi drains about 40% of the continental United States, water pouring in from 31 states and pushing out through the Gulf of Mexico. And for a bull shark, that whole system runs the other direction too. It's the largest inland highway this animal has. From the Gulf, a bull shark can move up through Louisiana, past New Orleans, past Baton Rouge, and keep going, past Memphis, past St. Louis, and there's no gate that stops it. It's not migrating on a fixed seasonal path the way a lot of ocean fish do. It's exploring, following whatever's moving, whatever smells like food, whatever the current happens to be doing that week. And the sightings back this up. Confirmed catches run as far north as Illinois, and one of the clearest examples came in 1995, when a bull shark was pulled from the river near Rush Island, Missouri. It was roughly 1,000 miles from the nearest saltwater when it happened. Think about what 1,000 miles actually means. That's farther than driving from Miami to New York City. And this animal didn't hitch a ride or get swept in by a storm. It swam the entire distance, on its own, through water that never once turned salty. The distance speaks for itself. People look at a map, see how far their town sits from the coast, and assume that distance means something. But the bull shark never read the map. It just followed the river. The Potomac and the capital, number 3, brings us somewhere you would not expect it. Now take everything you just learned about distance and apply it right here. The Potomac River runs straight through Washington, D.C. It's not remote. It's not some backwater nobody's watching. It's a city river, lined with joggers and monuments and tour boats, and it has bull sharks in it. In 2010, a fisherman hooked a juvenile bull shark near the Wilson Bridge, just outside Washington, D.C. The catch got photographed, measured, and released back into the water, a clean, documented record from a river that runs straight through the nation's capital. And here's the part that changes how you should read that catch. It wasn't the first. Bull sharks have turned up in the Potomac multiple times going back to the 1970s, which means this isn't a fluke that happened once and made the news. It's a pattern that's been sitting there for half a century, mostly ignored. The reason it keeps happening comes down to the Chesapeake Bay. The bay sees bull sharks regularly, including juveniles, moving through the brackish water where a river's fresh water meets the ocean's salt. Young sharks show up in that in-between zone, and as they grow, they push farther up the rivers that feed into it. The Potomac, the Rappahannock, the James. Each one becomes a corridor a young shark can use as it gets bigger and needs more room to hunt. Here's the detail that reframes everything you thought you knew from the last section. These aren't animals wandering off course and stumbling into the wrong river. They're residents. Biologists have tracked bull sharks staying in the Potomac for entire seasons at a time, not passing through, not lost, just living there the way you'd live in an apartment you've signed a lease on. So when you're standing on the shore in Georgetown, watching kayakers glide past the old warehouses, understand what's underneath them. Somewhere in that water is an apex predator built like a linebacker, and it isn't there by accident. We are right at the halfway mark, and if you are still here, hit subscribe if you haven't yet, because from here, the list stops being something you can walk away from. Attacks nobody talks about. Number 2 is the one people do not talk about. Most people know the name Jersey Shore, 1916. The attacks that got written into shark lore and eventually inspired half of what Hollywood thinks it knows about this fish. Fewer people know about the attacks that happened somewhere else entirely, inland, in rivers, where the victims never got near the ocean at all. In 2014, a 7-year-old boy swimming in Lake Pontchartrain, just outside New Orleans, got bitten on the heel by a bull shark. He survived. What should stop you is where it happened. Not in open water, not somewhere deep enough to expect a predator that size. The bite happened in water that barely came up past his ankles. The wound was documented, the species confirmed by a local biologist, and the story ran for a day before it faded, the way these things always do. Same shallow water, same assumption going in that nothing that big could possibly be close enough to touch. That shallow water pattern goes back further than most people know. In 1914, a man wading in Lake Pontchartrain near the New Orleans shoreline was taken by a bull shark in front of witnesses standing on the bank. He never made it back to shore. The water was calm that day, barely past his waist, and nobody watching had any reason to think it held something big enough to kill a grown man. Bull sharks account for the majority of shallow water attacks worldwide, more than any other species, because they're the ones most comfortable hunting in murky, brackish, or fully freshwater conditions, where visibility is bad and the shark has every advantage. Great whites and tiger sharks tend to work clearer, deeper water, Bull sharks work the water you'd let your kids swim in, and they don't bite like an animal that's unsure of itself. Pound for pound, a bull shark has the highest bite force of any shark species on record, stronger than a great white relative to its size. It's not built to test, it's built to end the encounter fast. Why it's getting worse. Which brings us to number 1. This isn't unique to American rivers, and once you see the full pattern, the causes stop looking like a coincidence and start looking like arithmetic. There's a bull shark living in a golf course pond in Australia, a landlocked looking pond that turned out to have a channel connecting it to the sea. There's one in a drainage canal in Florida, the kind of flat concrete waterway that runs behind subdivisions and gets mowed alongside like a ditch. Then there's Lake Nicaragua, a freshwater lake with no direct opening to the sea, sitting behind a stretch of river rapids that should stop any ocean fish cold. Bull sharks live there anyway, in numbers. Feeding and breeding, like the lake, is just another patch of ocean. For decades, biologists figured they'd found a separate freshwater subspecies, trapped there, and evolved in isolation. Tagging studies proved that wrong. The sharks were swimming the rapids of the river that connects the lake to the sea, moving between saltwater and fresh whenever they wanted to. The animal doesn't care what the water looks like on a map. It cares whether the water holds prey, and whether it can reach it. So why does this feel like it's accelerating everywhere at once? Part of the answer is temperature. Bull sharks favor warm water, and as river temperatures climb, there's simply more of the country that qualifies as livable for them. A stretch of river that used to run too cold for a bull shark to bother with in spring or fall now sits in the range it prefers for a longer part of the year, and the animal responds the way any predator responds to more usable habitat. It uses it. Drought does something similar from a different angle. When river flow drops, there's less fresh water pushing out against the tide, and saltwater creeps farther upstream than it normally would. That brackish zone, the in-between water a bull shark is built for, doesn't stay put near the coast anymore. It stretches inland, and the shark simply follows the zone it's always followed, except now that zone reaches further than it used to. Then there's what people built without thinking about sharks at all. Locks, dams, reservoirs. All that infrastructure exists to control flooding and move barge traffic, but it also creates long stretches of slow, still water that behave a lot like the calm estuary habitat a bull shark already prefers over open, fast-moving current. Nobody engineered the Mississippi's lock system with this animal in mind, but the still pools it created may be doing the shark a favor, giving it easier water to sit in as it pushes farther from the coast than a wild, undammed river would ever let it go. And the sightings keep stacking up. Trail cameras set for deer catch shapes in the shallows that don't belong there. Fishing guides post catches that used to be rare enough to make the local paper. Recreational boaters report fins in water where the official range maps say there shouldn't be any. None of this is a spike in some freak weather year. It's a slow accumulation, one report at a time, each one small enough to dismiss on its own and impossible to dismiss once you stack them together. So the real question was never whether they're coming inland. They already are. The real question is how far they've already gone, and how much of that ground nobody's confirmed yet, because nobody's looked. It doesn't need salt. It doesn't need the ocean. It just needs a river that connects to one, and most rivers do. There's something about swimming in freshwater that trains you not to look. You float, you drift. You don't think about what might be moving underneath you. That treaty you signed without ever reading the fine print? The bull shark never signed it. There's a shark in the middle of major river systems on this continent right now. A population that was born there and has no plans to leave. You live inland. So do they. Subscribe if you want the rest of this story, and send it to someone who lives on a river. They'll want to know what's passing their dock.